achievement gap, particularly when we start thinking about healthcare, housing, all of the things that we know that impacts psychomotor skills, educational
So
attainment,
nutrition and all that. Yeah.
nutrition, a whole plethora of different kinds of things that we don't necessarily factor in. So part of the colloquium is the gathering of the minds, bringing the thought leaders together. Because in order for us to solve the problems, it's gonna take a collective approach that involves various stakeholders beyond the educational context. Naturally, we are very passionate about education because education is a quality life indicator that plays a tremendous role in one's life trajectory. And so when we began to do this work, as Dr. Jackson indicated, we recognized that black males beyond the continental divide are not faring throughout the educational pipeline. Whether we go anywhere in the Caribbean, anywhere in North America, in the UK, and even in various parts of Africa, black males, when we compare them to their female counterparts, are not performing optimally in the educational space.
And a lot of people say, here we go again, another excuse for the black male. A lot of things happening in the inner city are based on crime. Crime began, I mean, where do the guns come from? That's one of the first questions. They're not coming from the black community, they're coming from somewhere else. But what happens is crime is their way of succeeding financially. So a lot of them go to crime, a lot of young folks, young black males go to crime. That is the fastest way for them to earn money, perhaps maybe the simplest way to earn money. They're not willing to pay the dues, they're not willing to work on it. Of course, there are many stories of great folks coming out of the hood who've made it and all that. I'm not trying to, just paint the whole picture as being negative and awful, but a lot of people are sort of like, throwing their hands up in terms of what we're going to do. I mean, you guys are coming, you're well educated, you're representative, but it's like a lot of folks out there who are very tired of the crime, and the crime sort of makes them say, forget about it, I don't want to hear it anymore.
Well, that delayed gratification really drives the pre-colloquium efforts that will begin today. It is the outward-facing community engagement efforts that occur before we kick off on Wednesday, where the specific purpose is to work and ground a long-term strategy with key community members. And so today we're fortunate enough to do our policy roundtable, which will have about 40 key policy influencers, where we'll have a good couple of hours to talk and see some important concepts for improving some of these conditions that you discussed. Then tomorrow, where we really dig deeply into the delayed gratification, is that we have an event called the College Academy, which really does attempt to help K-12 students understand the value of college and how it can improve these life indicators. And then there's a graduate school academy, which is focused on graduate school and professional school and their benefits there as well. And then tomorrow, Tuesday evening, there will be 2 colloquium conversations back at the hotel. The first 2 events, I should say, that are at Bermuda College. And then our evening event will be back at the hotel. And there we have 2 powerful conversations. One that will focus on a set of standards that can help schools to prepare their curriculum to improve the conditions on how which black males learn. And then the second one is to help families, communities, and parents understand their roles in the process as well, because parenting has a pretty key aspect in the educational process, and unfortunately, a lot of us aren't necessarily exposed to any models that see that role more than getting you to school and ensuring that you do your work right.
Leaving it to the teacher.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do we find that a lot of mothers enable these young black males? I mean, they kind of some relinquish power to them, let them do as they please, and therefore they fall through the gaps. James, you want to touch on that one?
Well, certainly in the U.S., over 80-something% of the men who are incarcerated, they don't have a father that's highly engaged in their lives. But what we do know is that mothers play a critical role. I don't want to demonize moms. IQ is highly correlated with mother's educational attainment and father's income. So it speaks to the importance of having a both and rather than an either or, because men still make more money than women. And we know money is an indicator of your ability to choose the kind of schools that you want in the different kind of spaces. However, you know, there are a lot of movements going on around the country, and some of our prestigious sororities are now getting in the business of mentoring and helping develop black males. And one in particular, the one in my household, my wife, she's engaged with one of those organizations. And I said, honey, you're not going to be able to mentor and impact as many males as you would like. It seems to me with an organization with 300,000 members that you would provide support and guidance from your members, because disproportionately overwhelmingly women are raising young black males by themselves, and there are supports that they need. And anyone know balancing work, family, and other things.
That's it right there in a nutshell. You're busy working and you can't be home. You can't supervise. You can't maintain skills and things that you want to impart to your child. So it's very difficult to juggle, basically. And we're seeing that the time that you should be home, maybe they're doing something else, the young black males. But go ahead.
I would argue, I would also say that this is not unique to low income and working class families. Increasingly, families with money are working, and they're not spending as much time with their kids like we would see from low income and working class families. In fact, in the States, when we look at the NAEP data, which is a national assessment that we use to compare and let us know where we are in relation to other places of the world, is that the achievement gap is greater for the $100,000 year black family versus the $100,000 white family. And so what I like for people to know is that this issue with black males is not limited to low income, inner city, or people who live in rural community. Primarily because black males in the space across the world, they're seen as a part of a group rather than an individual, and a stigma inferiority typically follows them everywhere they go. And so even when you have an education, people tend to treat you in such a way like you don't have an education, and which in turn,
there's so much psychological stuff going on here that most people on face value, they don't delve that deep. You guys obviously are. You obviously see all the different layers that are involved in reaching these young black males. Now, I want to ask you, when does it start? You said it starts maybe even before middle school, but have we lost a generation? Is there any way of retrieving black males who've gone past maybe 18, 19, who are just given up on the educational system, given up on normal trends in terms of getting a job, staying on that job, and taking care of your family, things that we do, and as people take for granted that that's what you must do in terms of being a man.
You will always hear us talk about opportunity and exposure. We certainly have to believe and should continue to believe that no souls, no individuals are lost, and that if we can expose these minds to opportunities that may be yet not seen, we certainly do believe that our build, our makeup, our intellectual capacity is exactly what's necessary to do very well in our communities. When you begin to unpack what black males are doing, you can see great genius in that work, right? You can see the genius in the music. You can see the genius in all of what we get ourselves involved to, the levels of creativity. So opportunity, exposure, channeling, we certainly believe that no one is lost, and that at any point in time we can spark something that might change a whole generational trajectory.
All right. Recently we've seen NBA stars in particular decided that they're going to do something. They're going to make a stand. They're going to step up and sort of be accountable for some of the young black males. You notice that LeBron and other athletes have just said, enough. And that was not just on terms of education, but in terms of all the killings, the shootings, Black Death, basically.
Well, certainly it takes a collective effort. Everyone can play a critical role in this process. And these are people who are visible. There's a classic sociological theory called the looking glass self. And it's not by chance when you look through this imaginary window that black males, they gravitate to where they see themselves. And typically it's in the sports and entertainment arena. And these individuals play a critical role. But I would argue that that's just one facet, but I think each and every one of us, Charles Barkley many years ago was kind of ridiculed for some of the things he said, but
he was blunt, let's just say the least. Yeah.
But really, the most significant individuals in our lives are the people who we touch every day. I can think about it in my own personal life. I'm very thankful for the coaches that I had, and some didn't have a college education. But in turn, I had the pleasure 2 weeks ago to tell my elementary coach how thankful I was, because he helped nurture talents that enabled me to pursue a college education and eventually a PhD. So each and every one of us can play a critical role, but I think it's important that we recognize the 4 T's, and these are the different ways that I was brought up from my family and saying in terms of giving back. 1, sharing your time. Time is important, and time tends to be the most finite, the most difficult for all of us to give. Time is critical. Share your talent. It's important that we teach people what we know and how to navigate in the world in which we live. The other one is treasure. Some of us, we can't just do it alone. We need checks to do these programs, and equally, we need to be touchable so people can learn and spend quality time with us. I think young men are increasingly, they're yearning that, and some of the things that we see play out that may seem as deviant, antisocial, these are just symptoms of what the real core issue. And let's face it, many of our young men suffer from traumatic stress. They live in home environments and communities that are not always conducive for healthy development. And sometimes we have what's grown within the black community is saying, oh, he's strange, and we just kind of say that's the way it is. And we need to do a better job with thinking about, are there mental health or counseling, mentoring kinds of activities that we can use to help foster healthy development.
Sounds like the community has to get involved. The community is the key word I've heard from both of you today. And folks, you can check out these their lectures and their speeches going to be giving again from the 4th through the 7th, Fairmont, Southampton, also at the Bermuda College. And I'm assuming they can reach folks at the Bermuda College in terms of there's going to be, I guess, ticket sales and all that you have to pay to go to some of these things. I don't have all that particular information, and I'm hoping that your registration information and payment details can be made at cmos@wis.ed. I don't know. That seems like an overseas thing, but
wis.edu.
That's edu.
Yeah.
Okay, edu. So that is something that they can do. You can also contact the Bermuda College and find out more about this educational transitions and life's trajectories, bridging pathways to success for black males. This is the 5th Annual International Colloquium on Black Males in Education. Folks are from all over the world coming in for this,
yes,
not just locally. So come on out and hear these gentlemen and hear these folks, actually, who are going to be speaking on this topic. Good to meet both of you.
Thank you.
Dr. Jackson and Dr. James. Take care. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All righty.